Minecraft Parkour Civilization is a Marxist critique of capitalist society. And I can prove this to you.
He's gonna create an uprising. Oh my god, maybe it's a story of capitalism and the proletariat rising up against the bourgeoisie.
We begin with understanding the class structure of this society. Starting from the bottom, we see the noob level. This is where we find our hero. These are the downtrodden. These are the lumpen proletariat, the poor, the homeless, the ones who are made to beg for scraps and barely survive to the next day, being given just enough work to be able to reproduce their existence, but not enough to progress anywhere. Yet they are still given this hope of being able to progress. This hope comes in the form of gaining tickets to be able to try parkour challenges to level up. This meritocracy, however, isn't real. To begin, if you fail at any point, you are thrown into prison and are either forced to labor there for 50 years before you're allowed to make another attempt, or you're allowed to leave early and completely forego any attempt to progress. This locks people into a lower class status. But let's say you do make it into the new parkour course to level up. There are still latent issues in here. For starters, the last jump is not possible without help. We see this with our protagonist, how the last jump, a 3-block jump, is simply not possible without the ability to sprint, without the resources to be able to do these amazing jumps. So, assistance is required. But this assistance has to come from someone who happens to know more about the system, who happens to be secretly part of a higher class. This shows the idea of bootstrapping and pulling your way up already has its issues. Then we get to the pro level, and the pro level we can see as representing the proletariat. These are the workers, these are the average man. These pro level parkour Minecrafters are the ones who effectively maintain the society. They are the ones who do the farming. They are the ones who do all the crafting and building. And with their paychecks, they are able to then afford some slight comforts. However, they are still required to go into work and work every day to survive. If they don't, someone higher up on the totem pole will come down and punish them, potentially risking throwing them into the lumpen proletariat. It's like your boss coming down and saying, if you don't fix this, you'll get fired, and if you get fired, you may end up homeless, so you better clean up your act. So here, on the second level, we are seeing the beginnings of class struggle in a wider context. Our hero progresses luckily to the third layer. This is the master level. This is where we see people who don't have to work, but may work to gain more wealth. This is the beginning of the bourgeois. We can see some of this as being petty bourgeois, still having to do some work but not much to survive, or we can see this as fully bourgeois, as besides a little bit of work here and there, they don't have to labor to survive. In this layer, we see classism. We see people looking down upon others for having to use assistance to do anything. We see people here saying, you deserve to stay where you were born. This classism builds into the ideology latent throughout the entire society. And then there's the last layer, the champion level. This is typically ran by a single individual. We can think of this as the 1% or political elites. These people get control over the rest of the civilization, but they toe in line with a lot of what the masters want, with what the bourgeois want. This final layer is effectively the state. They get all their power from the bourgeois, and the bourgeois get their substance from the proletariat, and the proletariat are forced to continue to work because of the fear of falling into the lumpen proletariat. This is Marxism. This is a Marxist analysis of capitalism. And we can go further than this. You are forced, if you are part of the lower classes, to labor. And not only are you forced to labor, the way labor is presented is that this parkour, this way of transaction, is originally at least meant to be a way of expression. This is meant to be what people live to do, yet parkouring is now commodified. It's no longer something people just want to do, it's something people are forced to do. This is alienation, taking labor power, turning it into a commodity that you don't get to own or keep, but rather whoever you gave it to gets to keep. You're forced to labor, you don't get to keep any of your profits, and you're given just enough to reproduce the labor again the next day. I mean, even in early Marxist writings, when he talked about life being, this is what he talked about. how this innate human thing, in Minecraft Parkour Society being parkour, in real life being just general labor, is taken and turned into something that feels alien, that feels separate from human nature. And then, after the separation, the individual is forced to then re-implement labor to now just be able to relax. Marx believes to labor is to be human, and rest is our most animal activity. Resting, eating, basic things required to survive is our animal behavior, and labor and creation is our human nature. It's what separates us. And this alienation makes what is human animal, and what is animal the only time we feel alive and human. So we see this alienation, we see this class structure, we see this Marxism in the society. Every time someone progresses to the higher level, it's shown as a feel-good story of how anyone can do it, but since we're from the perspective of the hero who's progressing through this society, we see he's only able to do it because of help, because others. There's no real meritocracy here. People chose this individual to move up. They didn't choose it. Other people chose to move them up. This is Marxism. This is how the elites try to show the world. We always hear stories about rising from the bottom and doing all these great things, but no one rises alone and no one does things alone. We can also see others people helping him, similar to Marx's life. Marx wouldn't have done nearly as many things as he did if it wasn't for the help of someone who is higher in society, specifically Friedrich Engels. If Engels didn't help support Marx, Marx would have been stuck being a proletariat all his life, if not lumpenproletariat, and the great theories he wrote wouldn't have been written. Now, this Marxist allegory may be a bit of a stretch, but I think it's an important tool to see how even in our art, even in our creation of a fictional society, the inbuilt contradictions of ours can still be viewed within the fictional worlds of others. So, Minecraft Parkour Civilization is Marxist. Whether it means to or not, there is an analysis of capitalist structures latent within this entire world. So yeah, what do you think? Is Minecraft Parkour Civilization Marxist, or am I just too far into the woke left agenda to be able to see anything else? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, subscribe, stick around, and have a wonderful day.